Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to TRLab's Non-Fungible Thursdays. This is our second episode in the series, so thank you for tuning in. As a reminder, we are streaming live here, also to YouTube if you want to join there, and this will also be posted on Twitter. But make sure you use the stream chat channel if you want to drop any questions, and we'll take note of those and hopefully answer them. So, with that, I want to say again, good morning to both of my guests and co hosts here. Um, Want to say hello, first of all, to Sid XO, a terrific artist joining us from the UK. And also, good morning to Decryptolorian. As always, it's wonderful to have you on, and thank you guys for being here.
No
And
worries.
Sid,
Yeah.
actually, do you mind just introducing yourself and just telling us just a little bit about, um, you know, I think really I would love to know a little bit about your art. I know
Yep.
you create various works across various disciplines
Yep.
and through mediums. I know you're a musician as well. You've got the guitar in the background there. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your art, and how you came to NFTs.
Yeah, sure. So, uh, I've really got quite a passion that's been a long-standing thing with art, and I've always gravitated towards it since I was very young. One of the first earliest memories that I've got is actually pressing down the side of the mattress as a kid and drawing the Grand Old Duke of York and all these 10,000 men along the side of the bed. And then my parents catching me out, say, "Hey, what's this on the wall?" And it's sort of just gone on from there, really. And so I really caught on with the whole street art and graffiti and that kind of thing. Really, that made a lot of sense to me. And of late, the kind of work that really I've been putting my time and effort into is the stuff that's based around kindness and just sharing, hope, um, really bright, outlandish, kind of uplifting stuff. And I like to mix a few little puzzles and Easter eggs in some of my work. I like to sometimes add a little bit of a sense of humor to stuff. Yeah, I'm multidiscipline in that. Uh, I don't really mind so much what medium I'm using. It's more the ideas. I'm really a big ideas person. And I think you got to put some thought and time into what you output, and it shows when you sort of dedicate to your art. And it's just been a natural progression for me to move in towards NFTs because I've got quite a techie background as well. So the
Oh,
art and tech have really moved in parallel with one another. I'm very much involved in the IoT space and have been for quite a while now. And so that's like, with blockchain technologies and things, there's been a big interweaving. And so it's very much part of my DNA that these things that there's not really a border that you cross between, but they're kind of one. They're sort of complementary of one another. So yeah, it's just been exciting over the last little while to get involved.
oh, that's really cool. So,
Yeah.
um, I think Decryptolarian has mentioned too. He has a bit of a tech background, and I've worked a little bit in tech.
Yeah.
It's always been super appealing to me. You know, Technology, right? I mean, it's what's driven our world to this point. It's what's enabled us to be here today and sharing art in a new way.
Yeah.
And so did you find NFTs just through your work research, or did you have other artist peers who brought you in?
No, I kind of came into this cold. So it was quite nice because I needed to skill up. I needed to get educated. And for me, one thing that I really love to do is to understand something before I commit. And so I needed
Mhm.
to spend a little bit of time because what I like to do is to be able to counter the reasons why and why not. And when you make choices, if you just make them willy nilly, you can end up falling flat on your face. And so I did a little bit of studying with this. I'd heard all of the stories that the media is saying about it, and the amazing highs and lows in all sorts of different remits. And I kind of in a roundabout way, I just thought, let's push the button on this. This looks like A, I can get some provenance, which is super important, and B, this is something that's lasting. And having listened to Whale Shark, he was a very big influence. I've got to say, some of the things that he'd laid down in talks I'd heard historically, he really set the wheat apart from the chaff with this for me. And I thought, if he's in this for the long game, and I can understand why he's in it for the long game, it makes a lot of sense to me to get involved in this now. So
yeah,
put a lot of that into those talks.
I concur with you there. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like I had just started to learn a little bit about NFTs. Sorry,
Yep.
and it was in the Clubhouse days, back when Clubhouse, I think, was a bigger force within the NFTs, and I think really instrumental to helping NFT spread.
Yeah.
But tuning into the Clubhouse and hearing Whale Shark talk about NFT technology, securing your wealth, as a collector, understanding what you have, the value. Yeah, I mean, this is why we're here today, right?
Right.
To talk about understanding value. But when it came to that proposition of what do NFTs bring as a tool, as a valuable tool for both artists, for collectors, for so many options, right? It was something that just instantly drew me in. So that's great to hear that Whale Shark has continued to be such a great influence and bring in.
He's an evangelist, man. He's such an evangelist. Yeah. He's like, he's like the Steve Jobs of NFTs. He literally just gets up there and delivers, and people go, yes. But they're not just saying yes because he's excitable. They're saying yes because what he's saying makes sense. It's true. It's facts. He gives you facts. I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so I think, getting to, there's obviously the facts, which I think are very important. But, then there's this kind of more intangible and tangible understanding of what value is, right? And, I think anytime I research this, I'm always still kind of like boggled. I don't come from an art like visual art background.
Okay.
So anytime I see that definition, the hardcore definition of value in art, where it's like the white versus black content, I think, and I apologize, I'm probably butchering it, but that to me is like this very abstract understanding, and that is like very factual, right? But we have all these other aspects of value when it comes to, obviously, as collectors, we're aware of what we pay as a purchase price, and probably as collectors, we're also well aware of the market surrounding the works that we collect. But I think with art generally, there's just so many other aspects of value that come to it, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on, what do you think are some of the highest propositions of value in art, whether it's your art or others?
Well, I see a little analogy would be this pick in my hand.
Yeah.
So on one side, if I want to play my guitar and I need this pick, there's already a value. It's already important to me. It's practical. But aside from the practicality, there's a connectedness as well that we have with art. And it's really important to not detract away from the fact that art evokes things within us. It inspires us. It brings emotive expressions out, and that has value as well. We can't just say because this has a practical use as a tool that it's more important than the other side of things. We've got our mental wellness. If we just put that to one side and said, well, that's not important, we'd be doing ourselves a disservice. And I think there are so many aspects to value. It has to come down to what's important to you, and how do you connect? How do you perceive what that is actually here in existence for? And if it makes sense, then that's where you gravitate towards it, and you embrace it. It's got to make sense. I think that's the be all and end all with all of this. Is it? I've had a lot of conversations with people who they don't quite understand what's happening in the digital space and the value of the practical side, but they do get art, and they understand how art does have a value and resonates with people, and it's just trying to weave those two together to kind of take people on a journey. We just need educating a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I know education is not always fun,
No.
and you also sometimes, I think, feel overwhelmed in the space trying to um, you know learn, do your own research, right? I mean, that's the basic tenet of everything we do in crypto is do your own research, make sure you do your due diligence before you um, start to collect anything. I think is a really good starting point. But yeah, it's a daunting task, and I think that's one reason why we want to have this series, right? Is to start
Yeah.
talking about it, make it a little more casual, and help people just hear some different points of view. And so again, thank you for coming on
Yeah, no worries.
and being a part of this, because I find your work very interesting. The little bit that I've been able to learn about your work since meeting you, and I'm looking forward to just learning even more. So I would
Awesome.
turn it over to you, DC, now to
Yeah.
maybe give an idea of what do you think is the highest level proposition of value when we're discussing art.
Wow. So first and foremost, how's my audio?
Your audio is good. Your audio is good. I know you're out in the woods somewhere, but
Oh
we can hear
man,
you.
I really am. It's always a technological jumble when I'm doing certain things, but yeah, first, Sid, man, it's so good to see you and hear you. I know I've seen you around for a while, and I'm a big fan of your art. Actually, I've
Thanks,
been
buddy.
checking it out. We share a lot of the same interests for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been loving your work and the colors you use and everything. It's crazy. So the question, what's the value proposition? I think art can bring to this space. Did I nail it or no? Yeah, it's that is a tough question to ask because there's so much to discuss. But when I think about what my value proposition is, and this is the first time in history where I've actually I've loved art for a really long time. I've loved creating it. I've loved looking at it. Not only in the traditional sense, but also different types of art. So I've always loved art in games and art through music. Just it's everywhere around us. It's in everything, and the art of storytelling, everything. And in the first time in history, because I'm not a big person who looks at people's names or looks at the person behind the art. And for me, this has been the biggest and most interesting thing coming into to we use the term Web3, this is just a term that just became popular, but
Yeah.
when we think about NFTs and everything, it's really that deeper connection. And when we were pushed into a world where we couldn't go anywhere or do anything, it really gave me the time to focus on the people behind the things. And that's where I think is the biggest value that I'm getting from this space, is getting to know the people and getting to talk to the folks like Sid, like yourself, Ryan, and get to know the people behind the screen. And that's something that I've missed almost my entire life, to be quite honest, because I see a beautiful picture, I play a wonderful game, and I don't know who's doing it, and I don't get to talk to them either. And
Yeah.
so, when I think about me collecting art, so I grab a piece that I connect with from and rest in peace, a lot of money. But I bought one of his pieces called Feeling Whale, and it's a beautiful piece. And I got to talk to a lot of money, and just what a great person, and you get to connect with them through different means like Twitter, and get to talk to them in interviews and voices, and it's just DMing, and it's just it's a great way to connect. And that's the real value here. So there's a million pictures, there's a million pieces of art out there, but for me it's the connections. Yeah, 100%.
Nice.
That I think that was really well said, DC. And I apologize for both of you guys. It's a huge question just to lead off with, but I think both you guys also had very different responses, and I think that really highlights the subjectivity of value, right? And I think whether we're talking dollars or these other senses, right? When we're collecting something, what is it ultimately that tells us this is the right way to enter? If I'm paying something, is this the right price? Is this what the market has created, or is this just what I'm seeing as the proper value to add this to my collection? Or is it something else here? And I think you both hit on this kind of like other quality of people. Obviously, what we put into the art as creators obviously ends up adding different aspects of value, whether it's a sensory stimulation, like literally there are 5 senses, right? We see visual art, we hear music, we taste food from a really great cook or a really great winemaker, right? These are artisanal items that are meant to evoke, pleasure or some other emotions, perhaps through another piece of art. But that connection to something else, or that connection to another person, that in itself is almost invaluable, right? Because I completely agree with you, DC. Like the fact that we can be here talking to you, Sid, and really understanding where you're coming from, and learn more about your art, and doing it all directly, right? That's really something that, if we had access to that, like DC pointed out, he feels like he never had access to that prior to this point in his life, if I understood correctly. If we even had access to that, it was still probably pretty rare and limited. So, and I agree, DC. Prior to the pandemic, some of the greatest joys that I could find in life were going to live events and experiencing art, whether it was visual art, music, or hanging out with friends who are also artists, and being able to talk to them and talk about their art and talk about other art in general. And that experience has been really changed in many ways through the pandemic, but it's also now brought us new opportunities to experience art and now rethink what our senses are, right? So I guess going beyond that, I'm curious, Sid, do you see yourself really trying to target specific senses, like literally the 5 senses we have, or maybe even like a 6th sense in your art? Do you find an objective in that way, or is it more of an idea based approach to your work, or are you just having fun?
Well, a mix. I tend to go with an instinct based on ideas. So I'll get an idea, and then I run with it for a little bit and see, has this got legs? Is this something that actually I could poo-poo in about 30 seconds and, it will just fall over? Or is it something that's got a bit of longevity? It's not too pink and fluffy. It's actually, there's something of substance there. And I tend to go along with those sorts of things and then just see where they take me. I love to experiment. I think it's so important to do that. I think you really need to, as a steward, I would say, as you know, artists are a steward of a gift, and we have a responsibility with that gift to be able to use it to the best of our ability, so that not just ourselves but other people can enjoy that, whether they've paid for it and they own it in their house, or they get to come somewhere and just see it for free. There's an experience that you are able to be able to deliver to people, and there's something of value just in having that experience, just going somewhere and someone's poured thoughts into something and ideas, and they connect, and it makes sense, and you can, there's a human side of it where we just go, yeah, you know, I get it, I get what's going on here. Sometimes we don't. I don't like every piece of art that I see. I don't like every piece of music that I hear. We you know, we've got to be clear about this. Not everything is for everyone, but the bits that make sense to us, those are the parts that we kind of continue on with. That's why we're here, because this all makes sense to me. This world makes sense, you know, that's why I'm here right now.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, I thought it was really interesting when you brought up one of your major starting points, perhaps in your artistic thinking, was street art. And
Yeah.
street art is something that I think is really growing in popularity now. It's really great to see a lot of street artists. You know, TRLab recently just a little collaboration with the Veals community. If you're familiar with the artist Veals,
Awesome.
you know, and I've been seeing several other street artists really find a new voice, let's say, in NFTs.
Yeah.
Where I was recently in Chicago, and I was staying at, like, you know, like an Airbnb type thing in this nicer condo building in downtown Chicago, and I went to their office area to do some work, and there were pieces by three different artists that I now have NFTs from, but because of the way that the street art movement, I think, has been embraced recently, these artists have now been, you know, really elevated to the point where you find people collecting their works and putting them on display proudly in these, you know, higher end office buildings, because people see that value. They understand that it appeals to their senses, much in the way perhaps like an Andy Warhol, you know, pop art, bright, vivid colors. I mean, we see it in your work behind you.
Yeah.
Do you think that the street art that you experienced growing up has now influenced greatly what you're doing? Like, do you find yourself thinking back to that? And I'd also be curious, have you created any street art?
Massively influenced me. Yes, I have created street art, and the main sort of design style, if you like almost the application of how I form the shapes and then color them in, kind of stuff, very much so comes from a street art, popular culture kind of a background. And I would say I'm greatly influenced by Cause, Brian Donnelly, and certainly Murakami. Like, those are, you know, heroes of the art world to me. They may not be to everybody, but I see so much in their works that it, you know, I want to emulate some of what they've got, some of that sugar.
Yeah, that's a interesting way of putting it. And are you then finding that this is something that you want to return to, I guess, or is it just always there and just present in your process?
It's very much something that I guess, because I've been so greatly influenced by it, and I've kind of, what happens in the art world is, as you work along, if you spend a while working on various different projects, over time you eventually start to mature something that you are able to deliver, and you kind of feel like that's yours. And it takes a while for you to get to that point. It takes you a little while to sort of play around with various different styles and tools and whatnot. And eventually you find what clicks and what you gravitate towards and what you kind of feel comfortable with. And so you go with that and, you know, see where that takes you. Some people stop really early on. I know Ian Davenport, I'm not sure if you're familiar with his works, but he does pourings.
Sure.
He'll pour paint in all kinds of ways. And he stopped quite early on in the process and said, I just love this. This is where it's at for me. It's pure fire. I'm pouring. And he just pours. That's how he rolls. And some people might get to that point and go, nah, that's not what I want. I want to fill cups up and then stick things in them and go a little bit further and just add to it. It's all entirely up to you. That's the point. It's not you against anyone. It's literally you against yourself with your ideas and where you want to head with them. And I think that's a really important aspect of art, is that we just are ourselves and we kind of put ourselves into that and deliver what we've got.
And so do you find, you know, I know you were recently actually at Brenden Dawes's showing in London.
Yes.
Which everyone listening, you know, make sure you go to our shows and exhibitions channels. You'll see some pictures of our chairwoman and co-founder, Shin Lee Cohen. She was there also with Brenden and shared some pictures with us. But, you know, I would love to hear your perspective, because I think Brenden also comes kind of out of a street art background, you know, and very multidisciplinary as well. But when you were at the event, did you find that a lot of people were discussing the value of this digital work or what this digital work presented to them in terms of these senses and experience?
Yeah, it was interesting just being a fly on the wall in the room. I did try to get around and talk to a few people, and I love walking up to a piece of art and just looking at somebody else in the room and saying, what do you think? And hearing what they've got to say and almost putting them on the spot so that they, you know, give me some feedback on your thoughts on this. I want to hear it from a different perspective. And a lot of people, because the work hadn't been formally introduced. So we entered the space and we headed downstairs into the basement, and it was all pitch black. And then there's this triptych of screens. There are 3 screens kind of in it, folded back on each other so that you could walk around them, and you could see face on. And as you walked around, it was almost like in 3D, you could walk around the piece inside a tank. It was really cool. It's almost like a fish tank with this piece inside it. You could circle it. And so people, first of all, they didn't get that. They didn't understand. They thought it was 3 separate things, and one was a bit weirder than the other. And so that took a little bit of getting used to. But there was no formal introduction. So had there been a little, let's ting on the glasses and let's just introduce Brenden. What does he do? And what is the piece? Explain a little bit about the coloring, the design, what's gone into this. We didn't get that. Thankfully, I'd been on the Twitter space a little bit before, and there's Whale Shark and Gazelle. And I'm not sure if TRLabs were on there as well. Were TRLabs on there?
I don't think we were on that one.
No.
We've been on so many AMAs recently, and you know, to be honest, like they're all kind of blurring together, and we have a lot more coming up. But I don't think we were on that one.
Well, I'd listened in on that space, so I had this education in advance that other people didn't seem to had this education. And so as I was talking around, I was listening and then sort of almost rebuttaling some of this stuff and going, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And kind of guiding it back in a little bit, because a lot of people just walked in the room and looked and said, this is weird, and didn't know where to go. And as soon as you add a little bit of context, just a tiny bit of story, it helps people along that journey. Some people, it'll make sense because they've got a background of what he does anyway, and they just love that sort of generative stuff. But yeah, it was especially the NFT sort of aspect of the whole, offering. Just being in that room, listening to how people were looking at that, there was a lot of in real life conversation and almost zero education on what was going on in the NFT space. So yeah, I was a proper champion that evening, just legging it around. No, what about this one? Or what about this? Have you thought about the value?
Yeah.
So yeah,
but that's also like, that's what I love about the space, is that I think all of us here are so passionate about the work, and we understand that the value of something. Sure, I don't know if this gallery had like a sticker price or a listing book at the front of the gallery. Sometimes we see that, but that's what I love, is that we're all looking beyond that. We want the experience. We want to understand why did this work even get created. I think you brought that up earlier. What's the proposition? Why is it here? What are we doing here? And that's such a cool thing to now finally be able to go back into real life and do these things. And I know that many people are looking forward to this, as the world, for the most part, continues to open up. So Decryptolorian, I know that you are also a creator and a collector, but I'd be curious, do you spend a lot of time thinking about how to actually value your art, and what sort of thoughts come into your head when it comes to that discussion?
My particular art or other people's art?
Let's say your art first, but then I would love to know, how do you approach, if you're going to collect something, what are you thinking about?
Sure. Yeah. My art's a bit, that's a deep question. I spent probably the past 2 years. So when I first, I guess to start from the beginning, when I first learned about NFTs, so I've been doing digital art for a while. I started with just website graphics, learning Photoshop, which before that was Paint Shop Pro.
Right.
If we're talking back in the day, and Photoshop was really kind of this taboo program. I had no idea what I was doing, and I finally sat down and bought some Adobe books, which is kind of funny, and self-taught myself how to do Photoshop. And I didn't really think of Photoshop as something that I would use to manipulate photos. I thought of it more like something that I would create, from scratch, and try to do that. But I've never been very good at drawing myself. In fact, one of the feedback when I was a kid was you can never draw on the lines. So I always kind of
great excuse to be an artist.
You're right. It's a great excuse. And I always thought, okay, digital, because I love when everything's lined up. I love when everything's kind of fits and feels like it's lined up. And then so I just love to just sit in Photoshop and make stuff, and take a subject and do it. So when you ask about valuing my art, it's, for me, it's, I don't want to put a value on it. Market's up and down, market determines things. And I'll throw some prices on my stuff, and I never want it to be like an ETH or 2 ETH artist, to be quite honest. I just want to put stuff out and then throw a small price on it and hope someone collects it. That's kind of my hope. I always want to tell a story with it. So I think the value for me is actually having someone actually care enough to collect it. I think that's where I hold the value. But when I buy something, it's kind of the same thing. So I'm looking at the person. I'm looking at what they created. Most of the time it's pretty shallow. For me, it's like, hey, this looks cool. And then it's kind of like what I think looks cool. That's how I design my art too. I'm like, this looks cool. You know, and maybe that's a little too shallow, but and then I don't want to get into it, but you know, I look at the Mac Retina screen and then I look at the Windows screen and I say, what did I make? Because the Mac screens look so much better, you know, and then I look at Windows and I'm like, wait a minute, did I really put that out there? But I've learned a lot in the past couple years, and I actually stopped minting, but I didn't stop creating, which I thought was something. But you know, I'll ramble for days. But you know, when, like I said, when I look at collecting somebody, it's really I'm looking for that deeper connection. Sometimes I want to collect it just because it's them, you know. And the thing that I hate the most is the monetary value behind stuff, because it kind of gates me out of it a bit sometimes, because I have artists that I follow and I love their stuff and I love retweeting it and I love looking at it, and I love following their careers, but I really want to have something from them.
Yeah.
And so I kind of am always looking for that piece that I think is really cool and that I could kind of price into. So that's why when people talk about additions or, you know, can they do this? Can they not do it? You know, I'm hoping for the addition piece sometimes because I want to get in. But I'm also looking for that new artist too, where they haven't quite hit their price point, you know, and you know, increased. I want to collect them from the start and have a piece of them, because that's what kind of makes me feel good about, you know, looking in my wallet. I want a piece of that artist, and yeah, I might take a break from that person for a while, but I always am looking at their stuff. So it's kind of weird. As a collector, I just want to have a piece, I guess, if I'm answering that correctly.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense, you know, and I you know, I go back to this direct link to the artist, you know, that we've talked about, you know, being able to support them directly and help them create more art. You know, I think that's something that I'm always aware of is, you know, what is my contribution, not only financially to their career, enabling them to do later, but I also hope that like me showing my support for their work and saying like, hey, like what you're doing is really cool. It appeals to me, whether it's a nostalgic factor, like maybe this picture of a boat reminds me of my dad, or pictures of planes maybe, or you know, makes me think of my brother. You know, is it that, or do I just think it's really cool and like, you know, it looks cool and it's something I want to display on my wall, you know. It's that connection which is really great. There was I don't know if you guys saw, there was this photographer, and I think there's been some talk about it in very polarized talk, that this photographer Kurt Jurgen decided to last Friday put all of his works on sale on OpenSea for 0.01 ETH, and just flat across the board. And this is a photographer who he's a drone photographer in Canada, but he had some works at like 1 ETH, and he had some works at half an ETH, and but he recognized that people were really down with the market, right?
Yeah.
And he just to get his art out there and just see if anybody was interested. Here it was, and he ended up selling, I think, 106 works that day, which is now, I think, again, given him some extra funding to help launch his next project. But I think more than anything, it really just stoked his interest in just doing more. And he's somebody who has a day job at a tech company in Toronto. But, you know, when I first heard him talking about his work, he was kind of in the mindset of like, oh, yeah, this is just something I do. And you know, I work in tech. Now I think it's very much, I'm a photographer. This is what I do. And I also work in tech, you know, and I love to see that kind of realization. I've had it myself in life, and maybe you guys have had it too, where you understand what the value of an experiences within your life, and whether you whether that value is constant, and whether it's worth continuing to pursue, or maybe there's a value in something new.
Right.
So, I see we have about 10 minutes left, but I guess, one thing I'm curious about is, and I'll ask both of you, but Sid first, maybe what do you see as something that what type of value do you find yourself striving to add to, I guess, your life, but mainly the lives of others, whether it's your friends, family, or collectors?
Yeah. I think it's just an awareness. So one of the values of my work is that I put in personal experience into some of the stuff. So part of my history, my son didn't sleep for the first 9 years of his life due to anxiety, and through various different means, we managed to discover that he's autistic, and we managed to put some scaffolding in place, and we've got this whole new boy who is ready to sort of take on the world and has a lot of experience already early on in his life, but is ready to roll. He's on a path now, and through that, I discovered that that's also my history, and I've just had certain coping mechanisms that I've put in place that I've been able to get through, and I'm here, and this is where I am. And so what I like to do with my stuff is definitely pay homage to those people who've been instrumental in that, people who have supported us as a family, and just giving awareness to autism. That's quite an important aspect within the art that I do, and also supporting the people who've helped us out. I love to reciprocate. I think I love to be able to, somebody comes to me and they give me something and I feel, wow, that was so kind. I'd like to do that to someone else, because I've felt that it's changed something in me, or it's affected me in such a positive way. I would love to do that to someone else. And so I try to put that however I can into what I create, so that people can somehow feel something off the back of that. And I hope that shows through. That's the reason why I sort of choose the palettes that I do, and I try and make things so upbeat and uplifting, because it's important that we have that available to us. I put a little tweet on earlier about the fact it's okay to be not okay, and there are times when we sometimes just need to get alongside one another and make that difference in someone else's life. We all need support in some sort of way. And peaks and troughs, man. It's peaks and troughs.
Absolutely, man. And I just wanted to bring up your art again, because I think your the vibrancy here, the colors, the life, even just within your strokes.
So the stuff you got up here, these are basically like a puzzle. So my experience sort of describing autism is that a lot of people say there's a puzzle piece and you're missing it, but that's not how it works. The world sort of is a puzzle to you when you sort of look at things from that perspective, and you're just trying to figure out how all the pieces fit together for yourself, and you flip it on its head. So we all can experience that. It doesn't matter whether you're autistic or not. Things can get in the way, and they take a little bit of time for you to try and solve. And that's mainly what these pieces are trying to say. If you look a little deeper and spend some time, each time you come back, there's something new. And actually, there is a link. There's a thread through the whole of this. You got to find it. Go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we love hidden Easter eggs and little quests in TRLab. I know the community really loves that. So
that's good.
It's great to see that you're embracing that and including it. And awesome. I guess again, I'm seeing the time commit. So Decryptolarian, hope you don't mind if I skip you on that one. I do want to call out to anybody listening here in the Discord. Do feel free to drop any other questions. I know we saw one or two in the stream chat channel, and I just wanted to make sure we answer them. Because maybe real quick, Sid, are you participating in your daytime fireworks?
You did a drop, and I missed out on the tickets. I literally missed out on the day that you dropped the tickets. I was in meetings for the day, and I came back. I was so gutted. And there's this time thing, isn't there, where different people in different time zones we all assume that we're in the right time zone. That's the problem.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, I know just from looking at the people right now that are on the stream right now, I see collectors, I see TRLab team members, but I mean, everybody's all around the world. And I know there's a whole other audience right now that isn't watching us because they're sleeping or working or doing whatever. But one person had asked at 3KV, what will happen to forever firework packets? Will there be any utility or burning opportunities in the future? And Sid, I don't know if you're aware, but these firework packets that you missed minting out on, but you can still buy an OpenSea. Go to our official links channel if you want. But if you don't set them off and create your daytime firework by the end of the cylinder, they will be frozen forever as firework packets. And this is certainly an interesting element of the project because you have 90 different opportunities over the course of 45 days to choose to set off your firework packet and create a daytime firework. And every day has a different unique firework to it. So the community really chooses the edition size. And we've also had an event where the artist Sai Guoqiang had documented his creation process. And I'm not sure if this is something you've ever done where, he basically was like doing his initial sketches for the project and outlining, what he wanted the 3D renderings to be modeled after. And he created this really cool, quick action sketch that showed him depicting this. So people had the opportunity to burn 9 different countries of fireworks. So they had to have one firework from 9 different countries. They could burn those, and then they would receive the sketch in return.
That's cool.
I know everybody here is very curious about, what else is coming. We've just hit the halfway point in this project. And I know that there's other opportunities coming for collectors and doing those types of sets. But, for the moment, I'm just going to tell everyone that these firework packets, if you don't set them off by June 5th, right now, and for the foreseeable future, they're just going to be stuck as firework packets forever. But who knows? TRLab has a lot of stuff planned. This project with Sai Guoqiang, Your Daytime Fireworks, is not over yet. And, you'll just have to keep watching for more details as it comes along. But if I were you, I'd really consider setting off your firework packet before June 5th. So.
Well, I love that. I've just got to say, it kind of reminds me, as a kid, I collected everything Star Wars and had it all in the boxes. But I used to play with it all the time. And you hear all these stories about, I had the Millennium Falcon and I made millions of pounds when I kept it in the box for 30 years. And you think, please, let children play with their toys. So the fact that this is what's happening with the fireworks is awesome, because it's like, let the children play with their toys. Let us see the art that's inside of the box. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's really cool. Decryptolarian, I don't know if you've set off any fireworks yet, but I do think it's a really cool experience. Had you actually set off any?
Not yet, but yeah, I do absolutely love the concept of this project, and I'm with you, Sid. I loved having the toys and playing with them. So, I just I look forward to seeing what else. Yeah, exactly. If I had my camera on, I could show you a few. But I love playing with this. I love playing with the concept of NFTs and just being toys. And this is exactly why we're here, right? We're here because This is, the next thing. And honestly, it's a really cool thing. So, that's why would we want a different type of experience? We want something more interactive. We don't want something stagnant. We want a story. We want to play with something and feel like kids again. And that's what this space is bringing to us. So I'm excited to see what comes next.
Yeah, that experience. That's I don't know if that's officially the sixth sense or not. What is this experience that we have of just being able to interact with art and experience joy, from doing so. But the value there is clearly something that is, I think, essential to humanity, right? And I think essential, whether we realize it or not, the art around us, the art we choose to put in our lives, that we choose to collect, it really does have a huge impact on us, on our way of living, and I'm sure many of our senses as well.
Yeah. Can I just say one thing in closing, Ryan, is that if we can change people's perceptions, or we can emulate something, or we can put something across, put a point across without even being in the room, by our art piece that we've created, doing that on our behalf, it's such a wonderful feeling to be able to do that multiple times across multiple different locations, all simultaneously. You're affecting so many different people's lives, and you don't even have to be in the room. That's awesome. I love that. That's value. That's real value to me.
No, absolutely. It's true value. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you guys both made me feel very vulnerable. I just got a new desk, and it doesn't have anything on it. And I'm just realizing, like, oh, I need some toys.
I've got one back there. Look, you see the wheel?
Yeah.
That's a good toy.
Yeah, no, this is great. I both of you, really, I appreciate you taking your time to talk with the TRLab community today. Decryptolarian, as always, it's great to have you. But Sid XO, like, it's really such a treat to have you here, and I really appreciate you sharing your life and your art, and just again, what value means to you as both an artist and a collector. It's really great to hear direct from you. So thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, DC. And thanks, everybody that's watching and will be watching in the future.
Great.
When you wake up.
Great. Well, with that being said, we're at time, and I want to respect everyone. So have a great day. Have a great night wherever you are in the world. And tune in for future installments of Non-Fungible Thursdays, where we explore all sorts of various topics for collectors. So thanks again, everybody. Thank you, Sid. And bye, everyone.
Excuse me. Take care.